Now, it's being reported that Ryan Poles is potentially going to stay in Chicago, and you either have two options. You either let him go, you fire him, or you extend him. If you're going to keep him, you have to extend him to help the head coach feel confident that he's not going to have a new GM next year. And Ben Johnson, he might want a new GM. There's a lot of rumors about all that, whether he would be okay with staying with Ryan Poles. He's pushing for Ryan Poles to be out of Chicago. Either or. If you're getting Ben Johnson and he says he doesn't want Ryan Poles has to be fired. I don't care how much you like, Ryan Poles. He's got to go. To get Ben Johnson, if we're keeping Poles, I don't want that to get in the way of us getting a top head coach candidate. Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Liam Cohen, one of those guys. I need them to be confident that their GM is going to be there for the long haul, or they have a GM that they can trust. And Ryan Poles, I wouldn't trust him if I'm the head coach of the Chicago Bears next year. I wouldn't trust him to bring in a good offensive line for Caleb Williams. I wouldn't trust him, to get things right in the draft. I wouldn't trust him to, build this thing the right way, because he's shown you he's built things backwards. He has a 14-36 record as GM, the worst win percentage in the Bears history. So he's come up short. He's built his team backwards, and there's a lot of concerns about him. He's had some good moves. He's made some good things happen, but just the consistency and tying himself to Matt Eberflus, some of the coaches that have been on this, staff, some of the moves that he's, been okay with, some of the moves he's made, it's really cost you to have different feelings about Ryan Poles. If he stays and Ben Johnson is in the building, I'm okay with it. But if we miss out on the head coach that we deserve, I would sell my fandom from the Chicago Bears. I would invest in a new team. I would be, rooting for a new team. This is year 4 of the rebuild. If Poles stays, he's got to get it right. If Poles stays, he's got to get the offensive line right. The needs are clear. Anybody who has, a brain that's a Bears fan that's looking at this team from the outside knows what they need to improve on. And we can't put $15 million in our offensive line. This was the cheapest offensive line in the NFL. $15 million out of $80 million cap space. We had a lot of cap space last year, and we didn't do anything. The Denver Broncos, they invested a lot of money into their offensive line. And look, Bo Nix took care of the ball, and Bo Nix, reaped the benefits of it. He played well this year in his rookie season. So, maybe spending a lot, it pans out, instead of, getting Band-Aid centers just to cover up, that need for just a year. Lucas Patrick, terrible center. Coleman Shelton, I think he's terrible. Cody Whitehair, putting him at center. Just some of the moves Poles has made to address the center need. We've had that need every year of this rebuild, 3 years in a row. Offensive line has been terrible. Caleb Williams, no way, the rookie quarterback that you were trying to invest heavily in, you got the weapons, all that. It doesn't matter if the offensive line is terrible. So Ryan Poles, this is your last chance. No more, next season will be good. We have to be good next year, Ryan Poles. If you're our GM, year 4, this is your last opportunity if we bring you back. And it's being reported, too, that Brian Flores is a top candidate for Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. Brian Poles was a teammate with Brian Flores in Boston College, so they have ties back to then. And this is the leader of men that the Bears are probably looking for. Brian Flores, great leadership, holds players accountable. Defensively, great defensive mind. I think he's the best defensive mind in football. Maybe the Chiefs defensive coordinator, you give the nod to him, but he's been doing it for a while. He's cultivating great defenses, top defenses every year. Minnesota, you look at the success they've had this year, a lot of it's been because how good their defense is and what they can do to other teams. They get after the quarterback at a high level. The secondary, they've done a great job. You notice the Packers game, focusing on more man coverage against the Packers because Jordan Love's been struggling against man coverage, no Christian Watson. So they've been doing a lot of things to put themselves ahead of the opponent, and Brian Flores deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done with that defense. They don't have dominating guys. They have guys that are playing at a high level, overachieving. And yeah, Brian Flores, what he's done with the Vikings defense, give him credit, give him props. And in Miami, the defense was really good. It's just, what is his relationship going to be like with a young quarterback? I know Tua, I can see why he was calling Tua soft, and just his relationship wasn't great with Tua because Tua's not the best quarterback. Tua is kind of soft. But what will it be like with Caleb? I've seen some funny memes. Caleb is gonna get called a faggot by Brian Flores on like the third day of them being together and stuff. But like in all honesty, like what is the relationship gonna be like with Brian Flores? Can he be able to have a great relationship with the most important player on the roster, the franchise? Caleb Williams is a great player. Likes to be coached hard. Likes a coach that's gonna have accountability. Can those two guys work together? Can he have a good offensive coordinator come into Chicago and help get the most out of Caleb? I think that's why people want more of an offensive mind with Caleb, because you don't have to worry about an offensive coordinator leaving every season. You want to have an offensive mind coach that is the guy that's facilitating the offense year after year and creating a successful unit. So Brian Flores, I think he can win in Chicago. I think he could be a great Chicago coach. I mean, he fits the mold of historic Chicago Bears coaches. Lovie Smith, great defensive mind, tough, physical. I think the team would be a tough team to beat. Defensively would be elite with Brian Flores as our head coach. I wouldn't be mad at it, but would I prefer it? No. I think, Brian Flores would have more success than Matt Eberflus did. I think he would have a better record than Eberflus did. I think with Brian Flores as our Bears coach this year, the team would be better. We wouldn't have the culture we have. I think he would do a good job creating a good culture in Chicago. But offensively, I would have a lot of concerns about, Caleb and his development. And I just don't think going from defensive mind to defensive mind for Caleb Williams is the right thing to do. Bring in an offensive mind, a guy like Ben Johnson, one of the most qualified offensive coordinators we've seen ever. Kyle Shanahan level of coordinator. 3 straight seasons with the top 5 offense. The creativity in his play calls. Every year you see him do it. Every game you see him do a trick play, and it works wonders. So that's the guy we need to bring in. Imagine getting the top quarterback prospect one offseason, and the next offseason getting the top coach candidate. So back-to-back years of hitting on those, and that could make up for the dark seasons we've seen with the Chicago Bears and how bad it's been. So Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, that's all I want. Liam Cohen as well, Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't love it immediately. I would have to warm up to it. I don't think it would be a bad hire completely, but it's just not the hire we'd be looking for, and that's not the hire we'd be all happy for. I think right now Bears fans and everybody that loves the Bears is waiting for Ben Johnson to be head coach. But I would want him to get an extension done with, Keenan Allen. I would want him to stay with the Chicago Bears for maybe 2 or 3 more years, because he's coming off his best season last year with the Chargers.